Baseball is dead.
Rest in peace.
By God, gentlemen, something happened. Something happened.
The needle moved.
Something of note happened, which to me is a gift from the baseball gods I don't think I could ever repay, because we were going on, I don't know, 10 episodes where just nothing, not a damn thing.
Crickets.
And last night, Pedro Alonso re-signs with the New York Metropolitans. And I saw some tweets being like, you guys going to do a bonus pod? And I'm like, brother, we're recording tomorrow morning. Why would we ever give ourselves nothing to talk about tomorrow morning again? So yes, it was emergency pod worthy, but it was what, like 11 o'clock last night?
Yeah. For you. Yeah. 7 my side, 7, 8 my side. So 10, 11 o'clock.
Yeah. On the coast that mattered, it was late.
We all knew what we were going to do. So we didn't say anything. We knew, like, cool, we got it. We all tweeted, we all posted about it. It was what it was. There was no, like you said, there was no reason to cut ourselves off at the leg or at the kneecap and give us nothing to kick around today.
Yeah. Jeff Passan last night at about 10 p.m. Eastern dropped the bomb. Breaking: slugger Pete Alonso and the New York Mets are in agreement on a free agent contract, sources tell ESPN. Pete Alonso's deal with the New York Mets, which is pending a physical, is for 2 years and includes an opt-out after the first season. He'll make $30 million this year. In total, Pete Alonso's deal will guarantee him $54 million over 2 years. There's other language. Didn't Heyman have more on this?
What, on the details of the deal?
Yeah.
Did you say the player opt out?
Yeah, after 1 year.
Player opt out after one.
In the end, Alonso is choosing between $54 million for 2 years and $71 million for 3. He took the shorter deal, betting on himself with the higher first year pay. So, I mean, is that the right choice?
Well, if he just got 2 for 54 with an opt out after one, he's telling himself, if I perform the way I think I can, and if I'm going to be in a lineup with who, I like my chances maybe of being able to capitalize on that. If we're just talking about, both animals sort of feeding themselves, feeding each other, if you've got Soto and the polar bear to bounce that off of each other, then if you're Pete Alonso, you probably feel good about what that lineup construction and what your place in that order means and your ability to capitalize. So you're thinking, I'll take this year, high clip. And if I'm where I need to be, I re-enter circulation and we have this conversation all over again. Sure, I'm a year down the road, but what I've showed hopefully is enough for them to buy into another 3-5 year deal.
What's the likelihood of that, though? Because, I mean, I think looking at the free agent market, looking at the trade market, teams do not seem to value first baseman that much these days.
And what's happening, Jared, is that's because of, I think, what we're requiring from a defensive standpoint as well. And I think for the most part, I've watched teams, and I think we've all kind of seen it's that question mark. Like, is this a DH spot that I can hide a guy over there defensively? Like, where is, unless I have a bona fide defensive hound over there who is eaten every day, is first base a place where I could just sort of rotate guys? But I think because of the positioning or the defensive requirements and what the game is asking of a defensive first baseman these days is different. You got to have somebody over there who's viable.
Sure. JayHay, you had a thought?
Yeah, I'm of two minds of this. Like, you said, was this a good idea or whatever? I think, there's no way to classify the Pete Alonso free agency experience from the agency Pete Alonso side as other than like a significant failure. I think, it's been reported, and not like in obscure places, in the MLB.com article about the signing, that he rejected a 7-year, $158 million extension along the way. He's now taken a 2-54. So I think we're all old enough, mature enough to acknowledge that that is not a win.
No.
It really doesn't matter. There's almost no way for it to play out from here on out that would make that sequence not a loss. That being said, I'm just like, for as many nits as you can pick about Pete Alonso, the player, and whether you want to be in the Pete Alonso business long term, and whether floating $200 million as an idea was to his detriment ultimately. I love the fit back in New York. I love the terms for the team that they got him on. I think there are ways that it can work out for him, maybe not to the degree of what he initially wanted, but it can work out. But I just think this is such a home run punt, like, kind of pun intended sequence for the Mets to not only get Soto done, not only bring Manaea back, not only tweak some of, what I'll call the bit players, the role players spots on the roster, Winker, etc. But Montas, Clay Holmes, but also be able to bring back Pete Alonso on a contract that I think everybody agrees is more team friendly than player friendly. Like, this is a fantastic offseason for the Mets.
You called it perfect.
I think it is perfect. Like, I saw some people respond, and certainly room for disagreement, but they said basically that they needed a frontline starting pitcher, and that's what's preventing it from being perfect. I would dispute that to the extent that I would say I don't think there was ever a realistic sequence that included them getting Soto, one of the ace pitchers, bringing back Pete Alonso, bringing back Sean Manaea, and doing these other things. And I think unless you're being completely realistic about what a perfect, unrealistic about what a perfect offseason should look like, and I guess perfect leaves room for interpretation, I just think getting Soto, getting Alonso on this sort of deal, bringing back Manaea, etc., like this is exactly what the Mets wanted to do this offseason. And this is an incredible cherry on top for a guy that they're comfortable with, is comfortable with them, and we know can perform in this situation. And they're only committed for a year to 2 years.
I don't want to say that the offseason hinges on Clay Holmes and how that goes, but I think that's a large part of, because if that doesn't work out and they're now scrambling to plug that hole in the rotation, that's an endeavor. Like, you don't just find a guy and plug him in there. You're hoping that the adjustment that Clay Holmes makes to the rotation is one that boasts, a healthy bit of production.
I also just think that to JayHay's point about, anyone pushing back on it being this sort of perfect offseason, I look at guys like Blake Snell. I look at guys like Corbin Burns, who were linked to the Mets. And as the offseason kind of went along, I think Snell signed the second that the offseason started. He's like, I'm not doing that shit again. And he still got a ton of money, at least on an AAV basis. And from everything that we heard about Burns, he did not want to pitch on the East Coast. So you can't even be like, man, like, would have been perfect if you got Corbin Burns. Like, you just weren't getting Corbin Burns. They do have Paulie punch myself, though, if the Clay Holmes thing huge. Doesn't work out. Yeah. Yes, like that is something to note.
That's why having him is important, Jared.
I'm not a hater. What does his availability look like? Like, is he going to be ready for spring training opening day?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay, so then you've got Manaea, Senga, Frankie, Paulie punch myself, David Peterson.
Well, did you say Clay Holmes?
I did not say Clay Holmes. I'm saying this is like if it doesn't work out.
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, the starting rotation is not perfect. Certainly, if one of these guys or two of these guys falter, you're in a position where you're looking for improvements. But I think it's at least as good on paper, if not better, than where it started the season last year. And it produced a season last year that was more than capable of clearly of being a postseason entrant, given the other strengths of the team. And I think the rest of the team is now at least offensively, is now definitively stronger than it was, right? Obvious reasons. So I think that the rotation is at least on paper as good to start as it was last year, with significantly more upside if Senga provides more health, if they tweak Montas and get more out of him, if Clay Holmes' transition works, etc.
It's a lot of ifs.
It is a lot of ifs, but I think the baseline is it's as good on paper as it was last season on paper.
And at least the effort to get there, to you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To just if it's just a matter of look on paper, we're even better than we think we could have been or than we were last year. Even getting there, there's an effort being made.
And I'm not going to this is definitely an eye of the beholder statement, but if I'm the New York Mets and this roster and I have Juan Soto in tow and the contract that he's signed to and that big win in the offseason bag, I actually think that preferring spending your money on Sean Manaea and Pete Alonso and let's say one of these other pieces is actually preferable or at least as appealing as getting one of the guys that Jared listed earlier, a Blake Snell, a Corbin Burns, a Max Fried or something like that. And the benefit to these guys, because presumably you have to choose at some point how you're spending your money, but the benefit of these guys is that they're on manageable, shorter term contracts, which I actually think in the case of both, because Manaea is a pitcher and that's just beneficial for pitchers in general from the team side. But in Alonso's case, as I referenced, I think having him on a short-term deal, even if it just ends up being you're with us for one season and then he's gone again, that level of flexibility for a team with their spending power, I think is a tremendous asset as well, that should be counted. I just think it's a great sequence for the Mets and probably humbling for Pete Alonso, but also a great fit. So it's both sides of that coin a little.
And just to put a bow on it, to bring him back, when you talk about sort of shoring up the culture or just the vibe in the room, obviously that's a big part of the energy in that room. So it would really signal a massive transition to lose Pete Alonso in the year that you have Juan Soto coming in and right. It
would have been a changing of the guard. I don't think it would have been a bad thing
No, it's just it's a year that you have different. To get used to. Like there's no definition of who we are and what we're doing. And now while trying to show up and produce, and I know that sounds crazy to think Juan Soto can't compartmentalize the culture in the clubhouse and production on the field. No, but there's just something to be said for being able to go out and be the player that you want to be. And if that's the case, it makes being that leader in the room all the easier. But if you're having a tough time catching your footing, whether it's on the field or in the clubhouse, one or the other is going to suffer. So if he's hitting 130 through May, then him being a vocal leader and him sort of being the guy that says, hey, come on, he might be a little hesitant to show that face early because he's just not producing. Let him get hot. Let him be the dude he is. Things change.
Anyone here surprised that he went back to the Mets?
No, not at all.
No, it felt like, he had to talk to these other clubs to create the leverage to at least get a respectable salary from the Mets. But to me, it never felt like he was going anywhere else. I think if he were to sign elsewhere, I didn't think it was going to be the Blue Jays because of the fit. I didn't think, what was the other team he was linked to?
I mean, at least casually, the Mariners were mentioned as a fit.
And the Nats, that's what I could have seen something where I didn't see the Mariners paying him. So if he didn't go back to the Mets, I could have seen breaking news. He signs this deal, the Jason Worth deal, where it was wait, what? And it's just a team every now and then will make a splash to bring in a name and kind of be that first guy when the franchise is in transition to we have a window of winning that's coming and we just need some legitimacy right now before that window really opens. That I could have seen from the Nats, being that they've done it in the past. But I didn't think, who knows? I didn't even really hear the Nats linked to Alonso. I don't know. Was there a team out there that put 7 years on the table that said, hey, The Mets may have pulled that 150 and change off the table, but we're interested in doing that. We have a window where we might be interested in doing something like that. His market was really quiet. I think probably because if you're these other teams, you're sitting there and you're like, this guy is making offers to the Mets. Like, clearly he wants to play for the Mets. They'll figure it out. Why are we going to waste our time having these conversations trying to make something work with a guy that wants to play for a team that has unlimited money?
I think much like I'm sure some situations we'll touch on a little later, that's why the Mets were comfortable with letting this thing just play itself out, because it's sort of just one of those, Pete, you're not going anywhere. We'll figure out a dollar amount that'll keep you here. So if you need to go and have your conversations, go sow your oats, Pedro. Go for it. But we know where you're coming back, and we're okay with you coming back. So if it means you're coming back with a little more hair on your chest for us, fabulous. But
go for
you're coming
it,
back.
JayHay.
Yeah, rapid fire here, just real fast based on the things you guys said. I applaud the Nats on showing a level of restraint there with Pete Alonso if they were ever tempted, because I just don't think that they're ready for a 5-6 year investment in a slug heavy first baseman. I think that core needs to take another step before that's the sort of player that they should be targeting. We'll see how 2025 goes there. Secondly, I think Alonso, in some way, if you want to try and claim a win, I saw that he's getting $30 million in compensation for the 2025 season. Mm-hmm. So in terms of single year compensation, and that he could use as a platform, certainly something he could take into the offseason. And lastly, just considering, I know the health update, most recent one on Brandon Nimmo, was not super encouraging, a lot of time before the season. But if you ignore that for a second, how many top fives offensively are there better in Major League Baseball than the Mets? If we just assume for a moment, some order of Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, and Vientos.
Yeah.
I mean, Dodgers, sure, I'll give you that one.
Yeah. Braves, maybe?
How many other ones? Maybe a fully optimized Braves.
Yeah.
Maybe like a fully healthy Braves. I'm not sure. Or
Ronnie,
maybe their current
Ozzie,
version. It's quite good
Ronnie,
as well.
Ozzie, Ole, Austin Riley.
You got
Murphy.
Ozuna, Profar, Harris. You got some, there's some depth there. That offense still kicks ass when everybody's healthy.
Murphy.
Yeah.
Are you, I'm not putting the Yankees above that, are you?
Not if we're talking the original way I posed the question in terms of top five.
Top five.
Yeah. I mean, that's Judge and a lot of complementary
other guys,
offensive players. Yep.
Judge and the jury.
I mean, it's not even something I need an answer to right now. More just like kind of a throw it at the end of the thing. But
I mean, the fact that we're struggling to think of teams kind of says a lot.
It feels like that happened not in a hurry necessarily, because I know the offense was good last season, but adding Juan Soto, having Vientos ascend, nice little sequence.
What if they bring back Bregman? What about Houston? Well, I guess they got rid of Tucker, so no.
Yeah, Tucker's gone.
Phillies,
but I mean that's still Phillies. The Astros is still. I mean, depending on who they have in those 4 or 5 spots, but you're talking Altuve, Bregman, Jordan in some order, right?
Yeah.
Phillies obviously belong in the top 10
discussion.
Conversation or top 5 conversation or whatever. I have more questions about some of the people that would fill out the 3rd and 4th slots there than I do about anybody currently on the Mets. Anyway, doesn't necessarily matter, but just kind of a hypothetical that struck me.
Yeah.
Could be quite a dynamic offense. And the players who are 6, 7, 8, and 9 don't suck either, generally.
No. I mean, you got what? Jeff McNeil down there, the
Alvarez.
Jose Siri trade.
Yep.
People forget.
Yeah.
I mean,
Francisco.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alvarez. Yeah. That's a nice little lineup there.
Yeah. Yep. Sure is.
Sure is.
NL East is going to be great.
Yeah. Good for the Mets. Happy for Mets fans. They waited for this. I've
been ride or die since the beginning with the Mets.
Yeah,
you know that.
You're day one.
Yep.
You're day one.
Grimace. They call me Big Grimace.
Yep, they do. They have. And they will continue to. But for me, trying to put myself in the shoes of a diehard Mets fan, I think obviously you're very, very, very excited to get Juan Soto. But I think there's just something special about like it's awesome that Juan Soto is our franchise player for the next decade and a half. But I mean, this thing, the foundation of what we're about to embark on was built by Pete Alonso, and it would feel almost shameful to move on with Juan Soto and leave Pete Alonso in the dust. So for Mets fans, I'm happy that Pete is at least coming along for the ride for that first year of the Juan Soto experience.
He's the vibes guy, man.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad for Pete Alonso, but it is sort of breathtaking in a way that Juan Soto was guaranteed like basically $800 million or whatever it ended up being.
Mm-hmm.
And Pete Alonso, like as we've said, like I think that was said in the last episode or one before, like the guy who used to like be in the club is now trying to get in, back into the parties in the line or whatever. And they're like, there's no room, gets $54 million, which is a lot of money. But the guy that's also now in the locker room got it. They gave him $800 million. And it's just like, man, it's like you're an employee now, It's like you
used to run this place. Now you're kind of just sweeping the floors.
Yep.
Washing the dishes.
Bat fifth, buddy.
Yeah. I'm glad he's back though. All things considered.
Unquestionably.
And he's like he's a dork, but like he's an endearing dork. I think obviously if you're a Yankee fan, then you just find him dorky and unlikable. But I think he's a dork that's endearing. And
what year did he win the Derby the first time?
What
year did he win the Home Run Derby the first time? Was that 2019?
That sounds right.
I remember seeing him.
Yeah, 19 and then 21 because there was nothing.
Because we were at the All-Star game, right?
Yeah. Cleveland.
Yeah,
yep.
Like he's.
I wasn't with you guys.
Do you not remember? Were you not out with us, Jared? When he came walking in the fucking bar?
Oh, with the chain,
with the fucking chain on, and I'm standing there going, this guy just won the fucking home run derby. Like the reason everybody is here. The dude is right there. He's wearing the fucking studded chain that he got for winning the fucking home run, and no crickets, just crickets. And I was like, but I remember just seeing him, and I was just thinking to myself, like, this dude just wants to fucking party. Like this dude just won the home run derby, and he just wants to be with the folks. He just wants to be with the people. Like you want to have that kind of dude in the room. So you know what? For Pete Alonso, he doesn't give a shit that he's leaning over the velvet rope this time and having you fill up his drink, JayHay. He doesn't care because he's like, you know what? I can still hear the music, but drink's still full. Let's go.
I think this is a great move for the future of Mr. Derby guy. Like,
sure.
Now he can kind of be that secondary person on the Mets, and it doesn't seem almost ridiculous for him to be like as into the Derby as he seems to be, or like want to be a part of it. Now he's like a role player. So like, let's do. Yeah, this is the Derby guy. Like,
yes,
I don't know. It just feels more natural now. It feels like a better fit.
Because he's like, what do you want me to do?
Keeps doing it forever.
You want me to compete with the guy making $800 million to be the face of this thing, buddy? I'm cool with fucking showing up and getting the fans rallied around me for a month before the All-Star game, just to remind them that I want to defend this thing. Like, let's do that.
Yeah, Derby guy Pete. That was a wild All-Star game, by the way. That was I don't think it was the same night. I think it was the night of whenever they did like the celebrity softball game, and we were at this after party, and it was like Yelich, Napoli, JD Martinez, Jose Ramirez, and then Clev walked in. And that's when he was famous at the time, but he wasn't as famous as he is now. This is when Machine Gun Kelly just walked into the bar, and there was like a VIP section, but he walked up to like the main Gen Pop bar to order a drink, and then came over to where we were, and he just gets in the DJ booth and starts ripping the devil's lettuce and hands it to me after, because he needed to grab, like he was like he just sang one of his songs and like smoked a little bit and then just like passed it off. And like this dude, I mean, he's obviously he's from Cleveland, so that's why he was part of the event. But yes, he was famous, but he has transcended that times a billion since then. Very, very strange. Just seeing him just walk up to the bar like a normal person. He's like 6'8". Like he stands out, even if he isn't famous.
And we would see him just months later. When you think about it.
Oh yeah, the what was that? The fucking
for the California Strong.
Yeah, where were we? Malibu.
No.
Yeah, Pepperdine.
Oh yeah, we were Malibu. Sorry.
Yeah, dumbass. Yeah. Yeah, that was wild times. And I think later he admitted that he was on LSD during the celebrity softball game. Because I believe his team won on his inside the park home run. He just kept running. They kept throwing the ball around and never tagged him out. Yeah, Cleveland gets a bad rap. Everyone always, like, you say Cleveland, everyone's like, oh, what a shit city. I had a great time in Cleveland. I got nothing but love for Cleveland.
I never say that.
You never say that about Cleveland?
I never say that.
Yeah, no, I got love for Cleveland. Big time. I also have love for the Underdog Fantasy app. A ton of love, actually. When are we putting our picks out, JayHay? When's that graphic go live so that people can win some cash by riding the rocket? You know what I'm saying?
You know, that's a good question, Jared. I believe that's a today or tomorrow thing, but I'm going to follow up on that and try to get a specific answer for you. Yep.
Please do. We got score predictions. Yep. We got winners. We got Super Bowl MVP picks from all the underdog personalities over here. The best app for your big game party is on your phone. That's right. You and all your friends could be feasting on Underdog. Ride together on stats like passing yards, first TDs, interceptions, and so much more. If you or your friends have not joined Underdog yet, get on there. Whoever signs up today using the promo code Jared, that's Jared, will get up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Again, that is promo code Jared on the Underdog Fantasy app. We got some other, I guess, minuscule, no disrespect to these gentlemen, former teammate of Dallas's, former parade partner of mine, and former sparring partner of mine as well. A couple guys that got breaded up. We'll talk about that. But there's the Family Feud that we still have coming. And we have the Cy Young Hindsight, which is 2004. Very excited for that one because there were some good pitching performances in 2004. We're going to see if we got it right. Johan, Santana, and Roger Clemens won the Cy Young in 2004. We're going to see if any doors are getting knocked on by our very own Justin Havens. I did see a tweet while we were discussing Pete Alonso from Bob Nightingale that said free agent third baseman Alex Bregman still has no interest in a short-term contract and seeks a 6 or 7 year deal. It is February 6th, my guy. So if you don't have your 6 or 7 years by now, it ain't coming. And the teams that have offered 6 or 7 years by February 6th, I would imagine that's the list. That's the list of teams that are willing to go 6 or 7. The Bregman sweepstakes have exhausted us all. It's a Scott Boras thing. I don't. If there were like a blame pie on why this is taking so long, I would venture to guess that Scott Boras is guilty of maybe 80% of it, maybe more. But fair or unfair, Justin Havens, if he's in search of 6 or 7 years, then the teams that have already made an offer of 6 or 7 years, that's the list that you have to choose from. Like I wouldn't expect another team in the first or second week of February to come in at 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if, say, he signed with the Cubs, it was on a term of 5, 6, or 7 years. That would be very surprising to me. Like, based on the reporting that I've read, and I'll always defer to you guys, but it seems like the Astros offer, which is the longest term offer that's been reported, it seems like may still be out there. So if he were to return on that, maybe that's not surprising. But outside of that, I think it would be surprising if he got that sort of term.
Say he takes 6 for 166. Is that a tail between your legs situation?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think that it'll be interpreted that way, but if he's in search of 6 or 7 and he ends up getting 6 for 156, I mean, I think the goal was probably 200 plus at the start of the offseason, especially once Soto got what he got. I think a lot of guys that look at the back of their baseball card and their wins above replacement and see where they rank amongst the other free agents. I'm sure a guy like Bregman was like, shit, I'm going to make my money. But if you can still make it out of this, return to a situation that's favorable to you and get your 6 years, I think that's a win.
I think there are lots of ways for this still to be a win for Bregman. I have always been and remain more optimistic about his free agency pursuit than the situation with Pete Alonso. So what felt like a fait accompli for Pete Alonso still doesn't feel that way completely for Alex Bregman to me. Like I do still feel like there are either 1 or 2 longer term options for him, Astros being one of them. Perhaps, and even if it's not a longer term option, I feel like he's going to end up getting, a pretty decent compensation from a mystery team, even if it's on a shorter term. So his fit just seems a lot cleaner with more teams than Alonso's does. So
sure,
I'm not throwing in the towel, but lots of ways for this not to be a tail between the legs, as far as I'm concerned. That's an internal thing for Bregman, I would guess. If he wanted 200 million, maybe this is disappointing, but he comes out of here with 125. I still think that's, a decent turn of events.
Sure. And again, like it's not like you're taking 156 and going to Detroit and being like, this isn't great for my swing and ballpark. I kind of hit like shit there. It's like if you end up going back to Houston, whatever. But I did notice, JayHay, did you not notice that immediately after we threw the Cubs out there as the landing spot, every other reporter was just like, oh, it could be the Cubs. I kind of like the fit with the Cubs. Yeah, what about Bregman to the Cubs?
I did see that. I didn't want to draw attention to it because it was almost like self-evident. It's like we say it, people run with it. But no, I did see that. Yep, I saw Cubs' most likely landing spot. I think somebody was even reporting, which is
sure.
Wow. I guess I'll let that person know what I'm hearing next.
Yeah. The Cubs. Speaking of the Cubs, they actually landed Ryan Brasier via trade. This is again, if you're not following, the Los Angeles Dodgers go out there and give $13 million on a 1-year deal to Kirby Yates, and they say, thanks, Ryan Brasier. The last 2 years, 66 innings and a sub-2 ERA. Get fucked. See ya. Bye-bye. And they end up trading him after a DFA to the Chicago Cubs. I mean, when we're talking relievers, we're not really, it's like, oh, is he a good fit? Like, I think we're only talking fits when we're talking, is he a closer? Do they need a closer? Has he closed before? Like, Ryan Brasier is going to be a good back end of the bullpen guy for them. I mean, if you're a Red Sox fan listening to this, then you're saying like, this guy basically got taken from Japan, the Industrial League, and he ends up in the Red Sox bullpen, has a great 2018, was not very good after that. They told him to get fucked. Then the Dodgers turn him into a superstar, and then they tell him to get fucked. So who knows what version of Ryan Brasier you're going to get now that he's kind of out of the Dodgers wizardry.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cubs have some good things going on with pitching development and pitch shape stuff. So I'm more to the point though. Like you can say that, like, yes, a bullpen guy is basically always a great fit if he's going to a team, because every team needs good relievers. But I'm impressed with the way that the Cubs have actually managed to cobble together the bullpen situation over the course of the offseason, because like following the Bellinger trade, I think all of us, or at least I did, and a decent number of Cubs fans, I think, expected them to reinvest that in something a little bit splashier, or maybe a singular transaction. And I think while you can maybe still complain about some of the spending stuff, I think they've been pretty fortuitous, and also like, you know, they've jumped at the right opportunities. They got Presley seemingly as a little bit of a distressed asset, and because the Astros wanted to do some payroll management, and they got Brasier for arguably even more ridiculous circumstances, because one of the best bullpens got an even better reliever. And so you have a situation that was a lot of interesting arms, a lot of whom are kind of unproven in terms of long-term track records in the bullpen. And now you have two guys whose track records are a little bit longer. They're obviously older people in terms of baseball lifespan, in Presley and Brasier. And I think it's a really nice turn for the Cubs.
Yeah.
For what it is. Yeah.
Hard to have anything negative to say about the ad. Dallas, your boy Laser Ramon Laureano is coming to the AL East, signing with the Baltimore Orioles. What's this guy got left in the tank? Probably not much.
Yeah, that's gonna be the big question. There's always been swing and miss. There's always been erratic approach at the plate that hasn't really instilled a ton of long-term confidence. You've seen flashes for sure. I think the defensive side of the baseball, for as good as the arm is, I think there has been some circuitous routes at times that have left you wondering, is this going to get better? Is the margin for error going to minimize? And are we going to see this get cleaned up? I don't know that that's necessarily happened to the extent that a lot of Laureano fans early on would like to see. So yeah, I think it's absolutely a matter of, if he can get hot and help the left side of the platoon, then fantastic.
Rounded off with the Twins sign Harrison Bader on a 1-year deal. And our boy Tommy Pham gets that 1-year, $4 million deal, Dallas. Talk to me, buddy. Talk to me. What's going on with Tommy Pham?
You know what happens with Tommy Pham is the Buccos added a real fucking pirate to the ship, is what happened. You want to be able to sail these seas with a little fuck you in those sails, then that's what you do. You go ahead and you get a real bucko. You get Tommy Pham. Knife in mouth, knife inside, ripped out of side, in mouth. He don't give a shit, JayHay. He don't give a good goddamn what you got coming down the pipe.
You know who else doesn't give a shit, since you roped me into this, is Bob Nutting. Bob Nutting don't give a shit. He might own the Pirates, but he's got much better things going on than whether they're winning or losing. Dallas, I'm glad that Jared teed you up here and put on the music, because I was going to ask you the hard questions. How do you feel coming off of one of the great breakout seasons that we've seen in recent baseball history on the mound? We've talked about maybe he's the second biggest star in the sport behind Shohei Ohtani, Paul Skeens, that is. How do you feel about the Pirates building on the success and ability of Paul Skeens by signing Adam Frazier, Tommy Pham, bringing back Andrew McCutchen, and signing Tim Meza? Is that enough? Do you think that's enough? Is that a supplementing the core type of move, or is that not enough? I can't even see you behind the microphone. Are you okay?
like to maybe see a little more. Yeah, it's unfortunate that that's kind of how things have gone. Right. Gosh. Look, it's a matter of just evaluating the window. JayHay, I think that's what we're doing right now, is just evaluating the size of the window and what moves that would need to be made there.
No doubt. No doubt. Well said, Dallas. You know what? The thing that I respect a lot about Tommy Pham, but the thing that I respect the most about Tommy Pham is the man could just ride off into the sunset, but he knows that he's a mercenary. So he'll look at a situation like the Pittsburgh Pirates and be like, is this a good team? No. But I know that I'm going to show up there. I'm going to play my ass off, and they're going to trade me to a good team. So I may not always start with a good team, but there's a good chance that based on my ability, I'm going to end up with a good team.
He's like fucking Patches O'Houlihan in dodgeball, like just the grizzled vet who's been there. You want to learn how to dodge, duck, dive, dodge, and I'll show you how to do it. Mm-hmm. You're green now, but when I'm done with you, you'll be grizzled vets. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Tommy Pham is rolling in with his own fucking pirate flag, tattered to shit, going, I will raise this sumbitch myself, and we will go. And we will go. And I'm going to tell you all the truth here is when we get to battle, I'm going to be killing motherfuckers. If you are not doing the same thing and you're in my way, well, I hate to say it, but the sword may fall on you too. And when this is all said and done, if the other ship in this battle survives and they need me to go on and win their battles in the future, I will be leaving this ship that I'm on right now with you. I will be leaving it and I will be going with that other ship. Just want to get that out there.
Shout out Tommy Pham. I love Tommy Pham.
What's good, fam?
Talked to him recently. He's always got takes. Anytime that we're talking about something, he's got opinions. Yeah, he's got opinions
for sure.
And very rarely do I ever disagree with Tommy Pham.
Former guest on the previous pod.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, early days. Yeah, I think he was with Tampa at the time. Would love to get him back on. We could make that happen.
Absolutely.
And then before we move on to Family Feud, because Dallas is he has community service as part of his arrangement with the precinct. The Red Sox are discussing Nolan Arenado. Everyone else was reporting that a couple days ago. Section 10 had that about 3 months ago. But your take on it?
It really just kind of sounds like, is Alex Bregman holding up this market? This little mini market here?
1,000% yes.
Yeah. So we all know that. We all understand that. Look, this is where, and it just, for me, because it's tough. I love Brez and I want him to succeed and win many, many championships. And I know Boston Red Sox fans are not terribly happy with the stance that ownership has taken and the effort or lack of, whichever side you're looking at it from. But it feels like at the end of this, isn't this exactly what the Red Sox need is for this market to sort of shake itself out? They've done what they should have done. They've done what they could have done in terms of offering the deal, being present, and understanding the landscape. And I think that's what's happening right here more and more each day is Craig Breslow has continued to understand the landscape and he's continued to understand what he's made available to these gentlemen here. And he knows what the pivot is going to be. He knows what the move would be. So I think you are now looking at a situation where who do you want? Do you want someone that is legitimately like, is it a matter of Alex Bregman holding this up just to make sure the nut is as big as it could possibly be? Are you as an organization willing to shift gears and take on a guy like Nolan Arenado, who comes fully and ready equipped to absolutely rip the throat out of his competitor across the diamond? I want that dude. I want both these guys, but I want that dude. Nolan Arenado, who was coming ready to roll up the sleeves with a ton of fuck you behind him and say, you want to go to work? Let's get to work. This is where I'd like to be. I would enjoy getting the job done here. I think we've got a group to do that here. So now this thing starts to look like, all right, it's going to be a matter of who do you think's a better fit?
You can find a fit for either, but
oh, sure.
Yeah. At this point I have, the Bregman ship to me has sailed. The Red Sox are not budging off their, whatever it is, 3-year offer. And if Bregman's dead set on 6 or 7, the Red Sox are not going to do that. So
then we need to move on.
and you move
the
on
minute
to
that
Nolan
Alex
Arenado.
signs back in Houston, Nolan signs in Boston, and that's a done deal.
Probably. Like, I would say that the chances of that are pretty decent. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, this is where I always said if Alex Bregman was going to be leaving Houston, which is the best fit for him, then the best place for him to have landed would be Boston. In my opinion, there was really no arguing that. And what has happened is Craig Breslow said, we know that you'd like to be here. And so here's our offer. It's not where you want it to. You're going to go back to Houston. So you just make that decision. And once you do, we will be signing Nolan Arenado.
Trading for.
So just, but like, if that's the case, then why hasn't Boston just gone out and gotten Nolan Arenado, Jared? And I think the answer to that is because Boston
they're calling his bluff.
Absolutely. 100%. They have this entire time. Entire time. And that's why I said early on as Red Sox fans, you can be pissed that it feels like the Red Sox and Craig Breslow have dug their heels in. But when you zoom out for just a second and look at the offseason in totality, that would have been an early move that you might have been excited about, but you're not sure how that plays out. Feels like they've checked a lot of other boxes that you really wanted and needed to be checked. And what has happened on this side of things is Craig Breslow has wisely assessed and accurately assessed the market of both of these players and has positioned himself to either be the fallback plan and land Nolan Arenado or have Alex Bregman go, you know what? That is where I want to go. And I'm going to make the decision to do it. To hell with the extra year or whatever it is. And Craig's going, buddy, either way, we feel pretty good about what we're going to get.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think that the Red Sox are a little naive if they think that Bregman's just going to be like, all right, fine, I'll take the 3. At this point, no,
sure. But if Nolan, dude, Jared, seriously, straight up, like you can think that, but if Nolan is the piece that you're plugging in, when that doesn't work out, are you that distressed? Is it that big of a loss? Is it?
No, I'm happy for both guys. I want Bregman to get his 6-7 years. And if that's not here, then come on down, Nolan Arenado, my favorite player in baseball. That'd be great. I'd be happy either way. Just give me one of them.
I think Craig is going to be happy either way too.
Yeah. I think we're going to be happy when we win Family Feud today. I'm pretty excited for that, if we're being 100% honest, because the redemption, people want to talk about redemption. I think it's time, Dallas.
Welcome back to Baseball is Dead, Family Feud. I'm your man, Justin Havens. I had a really good Family Feud watching session about a week ago or so, just to kind of, make sure that I was honoring the show and the big man properly. So it's good to check in with the inspiration. I'm glad you brought up last week because I didn't want to be that guy and say, are you guys going to bounce back? But
I'm accountable.
You are accountable. You're a big man.
Yeah.
Last week, DB went first, famously, got in the 30s. So I think it's obvious that we're going to switch it up, right? Yeah. Jared's going to go first. Dallas is going to go second, even though we were already going to do that. Dallas in his famous closer role, which we all like him in. The fans love him in.
Love him.
This is, listen, a lot of people said I did a great job. Jake and I did a great job with last week's questions. They're saying the same thing again this week.
I did see a tweet about that this week. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it might have been from the same person both weeks, but that's the detail we don't need. That's a detail we don't need to get into. What's that?
What are the questions?
Why would I tell you that?
Just trying.
You think I'm some sort of amateur podcast game show host?
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm a professional. Dallas, pop that shit off.
Yeah. Yeah, bitch.
Yeah,
the
bitch.
Fuck? He said it, not me.
Yeah, pop that.
All right.
Hold on.
All right.
Hear you.
Yeah. It's not good. I can hear you too.
Yeah, I can hear that echo. There we go. All right.
Talk again.
Talking.
Good.
Can you hear me, Dallas?
Mm.
All right. A little suspicious, but we'll see what his answers are like.
Yeah.
Well, for the evaluation crew, the technical crew will flag him if we feel like there's something fishy going on.
Yeah. I'm not cheating.
No, I'm not suggesting you are. Jeremy,
Yeah.
Connor, let's keep an eye out. All right. Are you ready, sir?
Of course, yes.
Okay, good. You had a good round last time. I mean, if we're just
I always
talking
do. I'm the
man
best.
to man here, you have nothing to be ashamed about. from
Yeah, no,
last
I
time.
still crushed. I always do. Yeah, I've never had a stinker like Dallas.
Last week
That's
week
crazy.
was crazy.
Yeah.
9, 7, 2, 19, and 1. Those were his
Bad.
point totals last week.
Yeah,
We
that's
just
bad.
you can't have that.
No, not on my team. You can't.
No. And when he re-listens to this pod, which I know he does every time,
Every time.
he'll understand. He'll agree
Sure.
with me. All right,
Yeah.
let's get to it. Ready?
Please. Yep.
Out of 100 BID fans, here are the results. Question number 1. We just saw Luka Doncic traded in the NBA in shocking fashion. In your opinion, what is the most shocking baseball trade of the last 2 decades, 2005 to 25?
Mookie Betts.
Do it. Yep. Good job. With what team will Alex Bregman sign?
Cubs.
How many total All-Star selections will Red Sox mega prospect Roman Anthony have by the end of his career?
Ooh, 7.
You are commissioner for the day. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You get to change the primary color scheme of any MLB franchise. Which franchise is getting a new palette under Jared Carrabis?
Ooh, the Nationals.
All right. Now that he has signed, if you had to assign Pete Alonso's agent a letter grade for how his free agency went, what grade would you give him? You can use anything from F- all the way through A+. So minus, regular, plus, whatever you want to do.
D-.
Thank you. Good job, buddy. All right.
It's not a fail because he's still got the Mets, but it's pretty close.
Yeah. Dallas, pop that on, baby.
He should at least be watching.
I know. He's probably just like Googling facts right now.
Yeah.
He's probably just like trying to jam in as much late
Yeah.
in the game as he can.
Yeah. That was a monster round for me, I feel. I don't know the point totals. I don't know anything. It just felt good coming out. There's one question where I probably I feel like it could be like, oh, that was 7 points, or you got 3 points on that one, but everything else probably crushed it.
Dallas, how you doing?
I'm fantastic.
Were you
How we
just? I
doing?
said we were wondering what you were doing while we were trying to get your attention, and I said you were Googling facts, just trying to jam as many facts in at the last minute as you can.
Just fucking studying for Jeopardy.
Yeah, just hoping you luck
Yeah.
into one.
But what's
Yeah,
it start with a letter Q?
All right,
What's a
so
quince?
Jared's not all the way wrong when he felt good about his round. Certainly a better start than we got last time. No offense to you, Dallas. 92 points.
Okay.
So below Jared's average for sure. But we are almost halfway there. You need 108. So a great opportunity for you to kind of be the hero a little bit after last week's debacle.
Yeah. Be the hero.
I would not use the word
Honey,
debacle.
honey.
That's what the media I saw in the media. That's a
Lot of
quote that I
media.
lifted.
A lot of
Yeah.
coverage.
Out of touch mainstream media is all that is.
The
Legacy
left
Well,
and
I
right.
saw it in the Discord too, so I guess you're calling the Discord out of touch. You heard that Discord.
Ooh.
Dallas walked right into that.
Ooh,
Hello.
They know.
Dallas walked right into that.
Wow.
They know how I feel about that.
All right. 92 points, 108 left. There are paths to victory, so let's see if you can get it. Here we go. Question number 1 out of 100 BID fans. Here are the results. We just saw Luka Doncic traded in the NBA in shocking fashion. In your opinion, what is the most shocking baseball trade of the last 2 decades, 2005 to 25?
What? Matt Olson.
That's his default panic answer to everything.
Oh man, the fans are gonna love that shit, man. People were saying question 1 would get you, and it got you, baby. Question 2: with what team will Alex Bregman sign?
The Houston Astros.
How many total All-Star selections will Red Sox mega prospect Roman Anthony have by the end of his career?
4.
You are commissioner for the day, and you get to change the primary color scheme of any MLB franchise. Which franchise is getting a new palette under Commissioner Braden?
The Astros.
Now that he signed, if you had to assign Pete Alonso's agent a letter grade for how his free agency went, what grade would you give him? You can use anything from F- all the way through A+.
C-.
Thank you.
Wow, no buzzers.
No buzzers. That's actually notable. I feel
Yeah.
like that doesn't happen very often. Sorry, I had to go back in and fill in some. Wanted to keep it moving for my boy. Didn't want him thrown off. All right. This is going to be drama filled. I feel it now. Here we go. Needs 108. Starting 92. Question number 1.
I feel like we're
Fuck
not
this
getting
question.
Luka Doncic traded in shocking fashion. In your opinion, what is the most shocking baseball trade of the last 2 decades? Jared got more than half of his points on this one answer. 51 for Mookie Betts. That was the number 1 overall answer. Dallas coming through with
Come on.
0 points. It's very rare you get a
West
straight up
Coast
0.
bias.
Normally
I don't
there's
think
some
I've
other.
heard it. I don't think we've ever had a 0.
That's actually a good point. I'm going to ask the statisticians associated with Baseball's Dead Family Feud to look into that.
Yeah.
We got a whole team. Don't worry. Normally there's some other freak who answers these things for at least 1 point. And nope. All right. So we're still at 92. We need 108 with 4 questions.
We have no shot.
For the record, Juan Soto was second with 14. No other answer received more than 4 votes. So a tough question. Definitely needed to get Mookie Betts here. Jared did. That avoids disaster scenario at least. With what team will Alex Bregman sign? Dallas said the Astros. That's the 4th most common answer with 16 points. So we're up to 108. We now need 92.
How much was Cubs worth?
Jared said Cubs, which was worth 1 more point, 17, the 3rd most common answer. Number 1 answer, Tigers, 33. Number 2 answer, Red Sox, 25. Cubs, 17, Astros, 16.
Like they don't listen to us at all.
Well, that's probably a separate topic, but so we're up to 108, need 92 with 3 questions left. So pretty decent job on that. Probably should have gotten Tigers there, guys, but we'll see if you can overcome that. The Roman Anthony question, how many All-Star appearances by the end of his career? Dallas said 4, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That was the 2nd most common answer with 18 points. So congratulations there. That takes us all the way up to 126.
Wow.
Jared said 7. Quite a career that would be.
Come find me in 20 years. I'm right.
That was the 3rd most common answer with 13 points. 5 was the number 1 answer with 21 points. So you guys are up to 126, as I said. You need 74 points with 2 questions remaining. You are commissioner for the day. Get to change the primary color scheme of any MLB franchise. Who do you choose? Dallas, he does not like what he sees when the A's play the Astros. 3 people agreed with him. 3. That's takes us up to 129. That's probably not going to be enough. Jared said the Nationals.
Red, white, and blue?
He managed to find one of the answers that was less common than the Astros. One person.
Wow.
So you guys only got
Where
4
were the,
points out of that question.
Where were the Twins on that?
Oh, that's interesting. The Twins were also a three burger, so the same as the Astros. I think you guys probably should have stuck with what I'm assuming your gut would have told you. which is always say Marlins and Rays, folks. Always say Marlins and Rays.
Absolutely not.
25 and 15.
I like the Marlins
those.
colors.
Yeah, and the Rays.
I'm more of a older Marlins color guy if we're going to pick some nits, but I like the classic Marlin. Anyway, you're up to 129. You need 71 points on the final question. Now that he has signed, if you had to assign Pete Alonso in a letter grade, what would he get? Dallas said a C-. That is the tied for the second most common answer with 12 points. So you guys got to 141, actually worse than last week. That is a 9-point step in the wrong direction. Jared said D-, correct? That was worth 10 points. That was tied for fourth. Big spread on this one. Well, at least 13 was the number one answer. That was a D, just a straight up D. D, C-, C, D-, C+, D+. So there was a consensus here that it was not a good experience in free agency. So you guys got to 141.
Wow.
That's back. That is the first time I believe that you guys have ever had back-to-back losses.
I got a D for the discourse.
Yeah. What are your complaints for the Discord? Please unload.
No, that's it. That's it. Just that I got a D for them.
Wow. Is that because it begins with a D, or that's the quality of their performance?
That's where I'm grading out the discourse on this effort.
Yikes. Well, you guys, I feel like you guys will bounce back. Maybe I'll give you a softball next week.
No. I don't want a softball.
Okay, good.
Because then I won't feel accomplished.
All right, I love that attitude. I'll keep coming.
Yeah.
Keep coming.
Yeah, we're just on a little bit of a dry spell is all.
Yeah.
Well, it's the end of the off season.
Just want to remind you that we don't want to find ourselves shifting into right or wrong answers. There needs to be a spread of viable options.
Where were the Padres?
Who are you talking to?
List?
Talking to you and the discourse.
Wow.
Or the Discord.
I was going to say, is that a new app? The Padres were tied for fourth, 7 points. Marlins, Rays, A's, Padres, Guardians.
With the best fucking color scheme in baseball.
Oh, let them hear it, man.
I mean, not even close.
Wow. If you go to MLB.com, if you go to ESPN and go to the standings, the A's don't even have a logo.
That's tough. We need to start there.
Yeah. That's tough.
It is.
But what color is it?
I don't know. It's just non-existent. Anyways.
How good can you be? MVP.
This is a good one. 2004. This is actually a surprise for the listeners because we didn't announce it on the last pod. I went back and listened because I thought I was going crazy. And Jared went right into the trivia. I think it was Gaylord Perry that Dallas got.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's 2004 Cy Young for all the listeners out there. Johan Santana in the AL, Roger Clemens in the NL. So I don't know how old the listeners were or you people were in 2004, but I was 19 years old. I was in college and I was playing lots and lots of MVP baseball during this season and subsequent seasons. So this is right in my wheelhouse as far as my memory goes. And Johan Santana is one of my favorite pitchers of all time. We are going to start, however, on the other side. Because I think it's a little bit more interesting in terms of the debate. If we want to have one, I don't actually think there is much of a debate, but we'll see whether Dallas and Jared and the listeners agree. So Roger Clemens won the award. So we need to start there. He received 23 of the 32 first place votes. So in voters' minds, this was at least somewhat clear cut. This was the era of old ass pitchers being the front runners for the Cy Youngs. The second place finisher was Randy Johnson. Both of these guys were in their age 40 season or older. I believe Randy was in his age 40. Roger was in his age 41. So kind of an unprecedented season in a lot of ways for greatness at that age by two different pitchers. Clemens was, as I said, awarded the Cy Young. This was his 7th Cy Young. So his final Cy Young that he would win in his career. Also the first Cy Young that he had ever achieved in the National League. So that was when the Astros were in the NL. Again, a throwback probably for some listeners, but when the Astros were in the NL, Clemens won it for them. And it was on the strength of a 2.98 ERA and at 214 and a third innings pitched with just a hair over a strikeout per inning with 218 strikeouts. He also finished 8th in the MVP and made the All-Star team. This was also his first season with Houston. He had finished a 5-year run with the Yankees from 1999 to 2003 that also featured one Cy Young, his 6th in 2001. What I think is important to note, a few contextual things that I'm just going to rattle off here. Clemens was on something of a downward slide, at least in terms of his standard. Towards the end of his Yankees era. That 2001 Cy Young came with a 3.51 ERA. He then went to 4.35 and 3.91 in his final 2 seasons in New York. So with that context, this 2.98 ERA represented him shaving almost a full run off of his previous season performance. I think we all know now in hindsight what kind of stuff was going on here. But what's interesting to note is that Clemens was actually much better. In 2005, he actually shaved actually more than a run off of his ERA. And that was the season that he posted a 1.87 ERA and led both baseball in both ERA and WAR in his age 42 season and somehow finished 3rd in the Cy Young that year, his 2nd year with Houston. So there's some weird voting stuff going on, even though this was just 20 years in the rearview mirror, but he finished 1st this season. 2 things going on before I get into the main candidate for the award that's not him. Strength of narrative, point number 1, and importance of win-loss record and team success being the second point. So second point first. The Astros made the postseason. They were a postseason quality team. They were loaded this season, and it went much beyond Roger Clemens. The D-backs, who were Randy Johnson's team and who we're going to get to in a second, were abjectly terrible. And this is kind of multiple years post-championship. At this point, they were very, very bad. Roger Clemens also, I think, in the minds of a lot of voters, probably wrapped up this award very, very early in the season. For those who don't remember exactly how 2004 went, he started the year 9-0 and did not suffer a loss until June. Okay. So there was a powerful narrative being built on Roger Clemens is back. Roger Clemens is leading the Astros. The Astros are also great. Renaissance season, et cetera, et cetera. In the 21 starts after that point, he posted a 3.50 ERA, which I'm not making the point that he was bad, but he was much more very good than he was Cy Young worthy from that point forward. In some ways, the die had already been cast with the voters. Randy Johnson finished 2nd in the voting this year. And there's some contextual stuff and head-to-head against Clemens. Firstly, and most importantly, he led, compared to Roger Clemens, in B-WAR, F-WAR, innings pitched, ERA, adjusted ERA, strikeout rate and walk rate, and both raw walks and strikeouts. So Randy Johnson was, in every way that you can compare the two, the better pitcher than Roger Clemens. Straight up, compared to the rest of the league, Randy Johnson led the NL in B-WAR. He led Major League Baseball in games started and led Major League Baseball in strikeouts. So he was just straight up awesome in his age 40 season. He had won 4 straight Cy Young Awards, to remind everybody, from 99 to 02. He was bad, mostly bad, and injured in 2003. And this is now 04. Randy Johnson's roaring back in 2004 with not his best season, but one of his greatest seasons ever, all the way back to 8.4 wins above replacement, 290 strikeouts in 245 and 2/3 innings pitched. Some historical context, because you're probably thinking, wow, how many seasons by a pitcher age 40 or older have actually been better than what you're describing Randy Johnson did? The answer is almost none. By wins above replacement, the only season that is better than that by a pitcher age 40 or older is Cy Young in 1908. By strikeouts, the only season more than Randy Johnson's this year is Nolan Ryan in 1989. And the only seasons better by adjusted ERA are the aforementioned Clemens seasons in 2005 and that Cy Young season in 1908 in AL or NL history. This is the last season that Randy Johnson would ever receive Cy Young votes in his career. No shame in that, obviously, but he would pitch 5 more seasons. This is not the last good Randy Johnson season, but it is the last truly, truly great, transcendent Randy Johnson season. And lastly, if you wanted to, so obviously it seems like I'm loading the deck here for Randy, then I'm going to announce that it's his award, all of that. I may still do that. But what I do want to say is that I do have a counter argument here. If you wanted to say that Randy Johnson's not numbers should be discounted, but there needs more context. As I said, Roger Clemens built the strength of his campaign through June, right? Didn't lose, 9-0, great ERA, all of that. The strength of Randy Johnson's campaign was actually built down the stretch. From August 15th through the end of the season, he had a 1.67 ERA over his final 10 starts. Now that counts for sure, and I'm not trying to discredit it. But if you wanted to try and discredit it, you could say that the Diamondbacks were terrible, okay? And there might not be anything more meaningless in the context of professional baseball games than the games that are being played by a team that goes on to finish 51-111, the games that are being played from mid-August through the end of the season. So he did a little bit of stat padding on a terrible, terrible team if you wanted to do that. That being said, I'm not going to take that really into any sort of serious consideration. It's more of like a detail, a little nugget at the end about when he was most dominant. To me, that is totally out of a pitcher's hands, certainly an individual starting pitcher. And this is one of the great seasons by an old pitcher all time, and that the D-backs finished 42 games out of the NL West is not going to take away from Randy Johnson's greatness. I am taking the Cy Young from the 7-time winner, who we have awarded him additional Cy Youngs in the past. So Roger Clemens has been all over Cy Young hindsight.
He still breaks even.
Yep. So he's getting one taken from him here, and we are giving it to Randy Johnson, which means...
Did you mention the perfect game?
I did not mention the perfect game. That's in my notes, but it should be mentioned. Randy Johnson also threw his famous perfect game this season, which I think certainly enhances his case and adds to the mystique. May 18th at Atlanta, 9 innings, 13 strikeouts. So peak of dominance. And that's really even before the stretch that I cited, which is when he did his best, most consistent work through the end of the season. But yeah, I'm giving it to Randy. And that is significant for one final reason before I turn it over to you guys, because Randy already has 5, the 4 straight, and then the one with the Mariners in 95. This gives him 6 in this alternate universe, which brings him a little closer to Clemens and puts him in even more rare air than he was already in. So congrats to Randy Johnson. Record rectified, Cy Young age 40 campaign, maybe the greatest age 40 season that we will ever see, or that any of us have seen in our lifetimes. Dallas, Jaron?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I would also remind folks who, when you pose your counter argument about the value of the production, Randy Johnson playing on a terrible team and finishing a month and a half out of first place, think about how difficult it would be as a pitcher to dominate to the extent that he has with a lot of what we could safely call below replacement level players that he was surrounded by. So you could then look at Roger and say, is it a little easier to perform at that level, which was nowhere near Randy Johnson's level, with a significantly better supporting cast from top to bottom? I think the answer there is a resounding yes. So those arguments for me fall flat, and that's why it would be even more so a tip of the cap to Randy Johnson to dominate to the extent he did without the support that the other fella had, who was still unable to conjure up that level of production.
I know Dallas has got to go in a second, but I'm glad he brought up the support, because I mentioned how loaded this Astros team was. 2 other pitchers on Clemens' own staff received Cy Young votes. Oswalt finished 3rd, so not just a throwaway vote. He led the NL in wins, went 20-10. By the way, Clemens' whole case, basically, relative to Johnson, is that one of them went 16-14, and one of them went 18-4. But I'm not really going to hold that. Brad Lidge also received Cy Young votes. Their offense also included Jeff Bagwell, Jeff Kent, Morgan Ensberg, who was okay, Craig Biggio, Carlos Beltran, and Lance Berkman. So this team was had a pretty significant talent base here. One thing that I forgot to mention as far as the notes went, the Randy Johnson, his ERA was literally half of the ERA that the D-backs received from the other starting pitchers on the team. It was 2.6 versus north of 5 for the other starting pitchers. They went 16-19 in Randy Johnson's 35 starts. They went 35-92 in all other games. So to Dallas,
I'd be curious.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would just be curious to see what his numbers look like in his losses, in those 14 losses.
That's a good question. I'll try and get that for you by the end of the pod. Should we switch over to the AL? Because Dallas only has a few minutes. I obviously want to get his reaction here. This one's quicker, so actually it shouldn't take very long at all. Johan Santana was the winner in the 2004 AL Cy Young. This was not the first season that Santana was in the picture, but definitely when Johan Santana announced himself as the fucking guy in the AL, or maybe Major League Baseball. He had pitched to a 3.07 ERA and 150 plus innings in the season before. And even despite that limited quote unquote sample and pitching only some of those games on starting 18 starts the previous season, he'd finished 7th in the Cy Young. So the table had been set. There was some buzz about Johan, and he fully delivered 228 innings, 265 strikeouts, a 0.92 whip, 8.7 BWAR, and a 2.61 ERA. For context, he led Major League Baseball in BWAR, so he was even better by this metric than Randy Johnson was in the NL. He led the AL in strikeouts, whip, and ERA. It began a 5-season run where Johan Santana, in the opinion of some, built a Hall of Fame caliber career. Over those 5 seasons, he posted a 2.82 ERA in 168 starts, an average of 34 starts a season, 229 innings pitched, 238 strikeouts, and 35 wins above replacement. That's 7 wins above replacement per season. This season would be the first of 3 straight seasons where he would either lead the AL or Major League Baseball in WAR. And this would be one of 3 ERA titles that he would win, and one of 3 strikeout titles that he would win, the first of 3 straight. This was unanimous. All 28 voters went for him, and it wasn't for lack of trying from some of his competitors. This was an outstanding season from Curt Schilling on the mound in the rotation. He finished 2nd in the voting, so the voters had this one correct. 7.8 wins above replacement, and an MLB leading 21 wins, and a 3.26 ERA for Schill, 226 innings pitched. But he did not have Johan in quantity, and he definitely did not have Johan in quality. There wasn't even really a debate here. The votes show that. This was also a dominant season from Mariano Rivera. Not that he was necessarily going to win the award, but he led Major League Baseball with 53 saves. And in fact, that ended up being the career most for Mariano in a single season. So the most saves that Mariano ever got in a season was this year, finished third in the voting, but received no first place votes. He also pitched to a 1.94 ERA and 4.2 wins above replacement. I can't tell you how hard it is to rack up 4.2 wins above replacement as a relief pitcher by those metrics. And he did it. But it was all about Johan. And as I said, begins the 5-year run where he is the best pitcher on the planet. He leads Major League Baseball over that 5-year stretch in more or less every pitching category that you can think of. But certainly from 2004 to 2008. And of course, over that stretch, you can debate exactly how many Cy Youngs that he should have had, but he won 2. He won in 2004 and 2006. Probably should have won in 2005. Arguably could have won again in 2008, his first season with the Mets. But he was the number 1 pitcher by wins above replacement, F4 over that 5-year span, 29.8, ahead of Oswalt, Brandon Webb, and CC Sabathia. He was the very best pitcher in baseball. And he deserved the award. I'm going to lay out because I want you guys to have time to respond. And there is no counter argument for anybody else. It's just a moment in time, Johan's run that I'll certainly remember, and that I'm glad we got to, remember a little bit together.
Yeah, this is where, and especially as a left-handed pitcher, this is the era where when you're talking about like building a pitcher and taking pitches from guys, like left-handed, right-handed, it didn't matter. Like Johan's,
he was like a left-handed
changeup.
Pedro.
Oh, well, I was just going to say it was you wanted Johan's changeup. As a lefty, you'd get slapped across the face if you were to say Pedro because you had Johan's changeup available to you. So that's the one you're picking, you fucking idiot. But if you had to cut Johan's arm off and then give me Pedro's and then give me Zito's curveball. But those conversations were just, and the way he was doing it and the fashion that he was dominating, it was really, really, really impressive to watch, man. Really impressive to watch. And I was telling this story before we came on, but like we had the same shoulder surgery, the one that clipped me, and to watch him come back from the posterior capsule surgery and eventually throw the no-hitter. I remember watching that game and watching it unfold. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I hope people that are watching this know what's going on, like what he's putting on the line right now with this repaired arm. Like he was in my head, what I was watching was, and I was telling Jay, like it was like watching Montezuma burn the ships. And like, this is it. There is no return. I'm going out on my shield. I am not walking out of this Coliseum the same warrior that I walked into this Coliseum as. And he knew that, but what he gave the baseball gods is what I hope that they would repay him with. That unfortunately did not happen, but it's our duty to continue to have these conversations, which is why I like this. But Johan, unbelievable, man.
I just want to put one final bow on it because I keep talking about like this 5-year run, like it was one of the best things that I've ever seen. And that sounds like somebody who's just reminiscing positively about, a fond period about their life.
That's real.
No. So I looked. Wins above replacement from age 25 to 29, which are the 5 seasons that we're talking about. The only pitchers since integration who have put together a better stretch from age 25 to 29 than Johan Santana did. Pedro.
Kershaw.
Pedro. I mean, this is arbitrary because it's specifically 25 to 29.
25 to 29.
But Pedro, Roger, Seaver, Maddox, Ferguson Jenkins, and Sandy Koufax. That's it. Like we are really talking about one of the, in terms of the highs that you can reach as a pitcher, essentially the highest level of pitching dominance that you're capable of reaching. Kershaw 9th on this list, by the way. It goes Johan, Marichal, then Kershaw. So we're talking about fractions of wins above replacement, but nevertheless, that's the company that this peak era Johan is keeping. So when people say, hey, Johan was kind of like my generation's Koufax,
no,
because of what he did over a truncated period of time. Are they exaggerating? Maybe a little bit, but they're closer to the truth than they are
fabrication.
Yeah,
that's not a complete fucking
just
pull
talking
out of
their
nowhere.
ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
No.
Johan's one of my favorites, but the numbers back it up.
Same. I'm a proponent of revisiting Johan's Hall of Fame case, just because his peak was Hall of Fame worthy. The same argument that I used for Pedroia is the same argument that I would use for Johan Santana.
Yeah.
Hall of Fame peak.
If the shoulder doesn't fucking fall off, we're looking at a
yeah. And
very
Nomar
different
Garcia Parra. We're talking about it. There's WAR 7 is a statistic for a reason. 7 years is the peak of a player's career. And Johan Santana, Nomar Garcia Parra, Dustin Pedroia probably had more than 7, but like those guys had Hall of Fame peaks for sure.
And this is why I get so annoyed about like some of the relief pitcher Hall of Fame conversations. And then like a guy like this gets left off. Like I'm referencing the 5-year peak that we're talking about, which, you know, is clearly not only Hall of Fame caliber, but inner circle Hall of Fame caliber. And like, that's just totally discounting about another 800 innings, actually a little bit more than that Johan Santana threw to about a 3.75 ERA. So it's not like it's this 5-year period and nothing else. It's like a really good career, not in addition to the 5-year peak that I'm talking about. So that's like Billy Wagner, and this isn't slandering Billy Wagner. Billy Wagner, I think, threw 900 innings in his career. Okay, like that's great. And he's in the Hall of Fame, and I'm not like mad about it. Johan Santana threw 2,000 innings.
Yep.
Why is he not more of a consideration for the Hall of Fame?
What year did he hit the ballot? Like
2016, 17, 18. I'm sorry. He was 2018. He received
one and done.
2.4% of the vote.
Crazy.
Which is just insane. That was tied for the 20th most percentage on that ballot. He got the same percentage that Jamie Moyer got.
Crazy.
All right. Dallas, you got to get out of here. Final thoughts? Anything? You just got to go?
Yeah, I got to go. Something I did want to mention real quick. Let me pull this up. Obviously, you guys are well aware of what has happened down here in Southern California with the fires. But Rawlings, our friends over at Rawlings, our friends over at Easton, who have always been right at the tip of the efforts to bring community together. They are holding an event, and it's going to be at Chavoy Hills Pony from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that's this Saturday, February 8th. And the idea is if you have baseball equipment, softball equipment, clothing, apparel, things like that these boys and girls need to get back out on the baseball field through school, through travel baseball, things like that. If you can find it somewhere in your closet of stuff, find it in your heart to be able to bring something, a baseball, a glove, anything, please do so. I'll be out there. There's going to be a lot of other folks out there. But again, that's from 10 to 4, Chavoy Hills Pony. And that's Saturday, the 8th. So come holler at me, come check me out, come drop some stuff off, come help make a difference for these boys and girls out here.
Very cool. All right, Dallas, have a good weekend.
Yeah.
JayHay, final thoughts?
Yeah, I got a couple. That fucking Dallas guy, man. Oh,
yeah,
no.
I just can't wait for this guy to fucking leave, dude.
Yeah, so the Ichiro non-voter is still unknown. I don't know why that just sticks in my craw so bad, but it just does bother me that you're blessed with a Hall of Fame vote. You do clownish stuff, and you don't even have like the
balls,
the gall or the stones to step forward and defend a bad decision. Like if you believe in it, then let's talk about it.
Right.
And
write
if
a
you
column about it.
Right.
Hop on a podcast.
And you don't have to be attention seeking. Like that would also be annoying in its own way if he's just doing, car wash after car wash about this non-vote. But like, I do feel like some level of explanation is actually there is an onus on this person to be providing an explanation, even if Ichiro doesn't care. And even if he's still getting into the Hall of Fame, just feels like a little bit of a mockery of the process. Cause I would love to know what the reason is as a baseball fan. I'm not expecting you to know what the reason is. It's unknowable right now, but I'm sure there is a specific reason that he kept Ichiro Suzuki off of his ballot, or her.
Just write a column about it. Just
right.
You know, like to your point, yes, it should be made public. Write a column about it. If I'm that person's boss, I'm like, hey, you like print is dying.
Could do a year's worth of clicks.
Yes. Like print is dying. Like, of course, you'll forever be known as that asshole. Like, I still know like the two people that didn't vote for Cy Young in '99 for Pedro. But it's like, yeah, you'll forever be known as the asshole that didn't vote for Ichiro. But like, that was your choice. Like, you knew that he was going to be close to 100%.
And you didn't draw the short straw.
The one guy.
Yeah, you didn't draw the short straw that made you the guy who had to vote no.
Right. You made a choice.
Yeah, I just
and
don't.
If you feel strongly about it, then you should write about it because A, that's your job, and B, you'd probably never have a more clicked on story.
Also, what is the scenario where the person doesn't feel strongly about it? Like, how do you just casually not vote for Ichiro? Right? Like,
I mean, at this point, I would just come forward and be like, honestly, like it was an accident.
That's fine. Then that is an explanation. That's a reason. It's not a good one, but it is one that actually I think everybody could wrap their mind around to some degree because every person has made a mistake. But if it's not a mistake, that's a little bit of a different thing. My other final thought, semi-adjacent, I guess. I saw that Elvis Andrus is going to be elected to the Rangers Hall of Fame, which I just thought is kind of cool, given the role that he played on some of the greatest Rangers teams of all time. And Adrian Beltre, who obviously played a larger role and is in the real Hall of Fame or the Baseball Hall of Fame, is going to get a full life-size statue, which I thought is also very cool. Statues, who gets a statue and who doesn't, is kind of an interesting thing. But I find it generally very cool when somebody that I grew up / know from my youth of baseball or my formative baseball years gets a statue. Like when Tommy got a statue outside of the Jake, I was like, that's so badass. It's like one of the few things I've asked to like, hey, can I take a picture? Like, let's stop. Oh, somebody get a picture of me. Like, I generally don't care. But like, I was like, oh yeah, that's so cool. I'm glad they took the time to honor that player. And I know Adrian Beltre holds a similar spot in Texas lore, Rangers franchise. So yeah, thought that was cool.
Isn't it crazy? Adrian Beltre gets a statue with the Rangers, which is, he went what? Dodgers,
Mariners.
To the Mariners, to the Red Sox, to the Rangers, I believe his career arc was.
That's right.
Like David Ortiz does not have a statue at Fenway. That's crazy. Like he's the most important player in franchise history. Does not have a statue at Fenway, but then Adrian Beltre, who is on his fourth team, who played the back end of his career with the Rangers and didn't win a championship, has his number retired. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it.
Yeah, no, I know.
But
I could do a whole podcast or a series on Adrian Beltre. Like for me, he is on the very short list of most fascinating career paths, trajectories that I've ever seen. Like you just don't see, and it's everything about the career. It's that he started at age 19, like he was a mega prospect. He was incredibly precocious. He was with the Dodgers. He played out his full string. He had an amazing, unbelievable MVP caliber walk year. Got the massive deal at the time, what felt like a massive deal, not so massive now, with the Mariners. And immediately lost literally 301 points off of his OPS from the previous season. And then like that kind of tainted his entire Mariners run. That was an incredibly difficult time period to hit at Safeco. And it depressed offense in a way that it was just so shitty. And that kind of tainted his whole Seattle run. But he won multiple Gold Gloves over that stretch. He was an above average offensive player for 3 years. He goes to Boston, rehabs his image, his value with a legitimately better season than he put up in any year with Seattle. But like that Seattle run, I feel like people view it as like oh, Beltre kind of sucked in Seattle. He put up 21 wins above replacement over 5 seasons. He was like a legitimate all-star caliber player. It just happened to be largely with the glove in an environment that suppressed all of his offense. And then you had the 1 year with Boston. And then you had the, as you said, the Texas era, which basically cemented a Hall of Fame caliber career. And I still do a double take when I look. It doesn't matter what stat you or WAR, which version of WAR you use. You do a double take when you see Beltre's total. At least I do. 93.5. That's more than Jimmy Fox. Like it's the same as, like, I guess there are similarities between him and Cal Ripken. Actually, it's an interesting comparison, but like more than George Brett, more than Trout has currently. We'll see if Trout can pass him.
That's crazy too.
Yeah. Chipper Jones. Like and I know this is not breaking news, but like Adrian Beltre is, just by wins above replacement, one of the 40 greatest players in Major League Baseball history, hitters and pitchers. And I just don't feel like even now people have wrapped their head around that he put together that sort of career.
I think there's a few things you can attribute that to. One, he never won an MVP.
Yep.
So he was never the guy. I think 2004 was his best shot. 2010 was also another great year for him. Never won the MVP, never won a World Series. He was on 4 different teams. And maybe, I mean, I'm glad that he was this way during his career, but maybe because he was more known for like, don't touch my head, and like the silliness, I guess, and the having fun and the stuff with like Elvis Andrus. It's like people knew him as like the funny guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, but he's actually like one of the best players in baseball history.
Well, to add to your point,
people knew he was good, but like,
for sure. Well, to add to your point too about like, he never won the MVP. He not only never won the MVP, he only really got that close twice. And you brought up 2010 as being a great season. It was. Voters didn't recognize it as being a true MVP caliber campaign. He finished 9th that season. He got the 2nd place finish in 2004. And then he had a 3rd place finish in his 2nd season with Texas. And legitimately so. That was a great season. But those are the only instances of him even finishing in the top 5 in an MVP vote in his career. He had a few other 7th and 9th and 15th or whatever. But really, those are the only 2 seasons where he was in serious consideration. Additionally, he had 1 season where he registered an MVP vote in his first 12 major league seasons. Okay. And he had 0 all-star appearances over that same stretch. He did not make not that I fucking really care about all-star teams, but in terms of how he was being viewed, he did not make an all-star team until Boston.
That's crazy.
Didn't make it with the Dodgers when he was 25. Didn't make it in any Seattle one, which is not necessarily surprising given what we laid out. But he was in his age 31 campaign before he made an all-star team. He then proceeded to make 3 straight and 4 of the next 5. But we're still only talking about a guy who ended up making 4 all-star teams. And this is sounding like I'm diminishing. It's really not. It's actually praising. But yeah, and 5 Gold Gloves. So people think of Beltre as like, oh man, well, yeah, the offense, it was what it was. It was great, but like what the leather, man. And that's true. That's part of wins above replacement. But 5 Gold Gloves, there are lots of people with more than 5 Gold Gloves. You know what I mean? So it's not even like, oh, well, the guy had 10 Gold Gloves at third base. Obviously the bar was pretty high where he was playing, but like, it's just a fascinating career. And yeah, I mean, he got into the Hall of Fame. No problem. First season, 95%. So people clearly view him as a Hall of Fame caliber guy. There was no real debate to be had, which is great. There shouldn't have been. But I do feel like a lot of that work to get him to 95% and that level of consolidation of opinion was done in the last half decade of his career.
Sure.
It's almost like people are like, well, Adrian Beltre, man, like, do people know he's going to be in the Hall of Fame? And then next season it was Adrian Beltre, man, like he's first ballot. People know that, right? And then next season it was Adrian Beltre, like, whoa, one of the greatest players in modern baseball history. It's like, it just kept being like, are we sure we're appreciating him at the proper level? I don't know. It's just, I know we've done now like 10 minutes on Adrian Beltre, but maybe somebody out there appreciates
people
that.
didn't even realize that he was on that level until he got to Texas.
Right. Exactly.
Like when he ended up coming to Boston for that 1 year in 2010, like the reaction wasn't like, holy shit, we got Adrian Beltre. It was like, oh, cool, Adrian Beltre. Yeah. I know who that is. Yeah.
Nice rehab season or whatever, right? And
pillow contract. Yeah, that's smart for the team. Yeah, I'm comfortable with 1 year for Adrian Beltre.
Yeah, and I'm not like here to rip the Red Sox in hindsight, but like clearly they had him in house, and then he proceeded to sign with another team. So like they had
that was because they traded for Adrian Gonzalez and moved Kevin Youkilis to third base.
Totally,
which was obviously a mistake, but
and Adrian Gonzalez had a certain cachet at the time that is hard for people, I think, to understand who were.
Oh yeah, like that was the era of the Fenway Park overlays. I tweeted it the other day because that winter I was in college and I did a presentation on why the Red Sox should trade for Adrian Gonzalez and had all the Fenway Park overlays with Petco. It's like, yeah, like see this? Like he would have 55 doubles and close to 60 home runs if he played at Fenway because of his swing. And he goes to left field a lot with pop and blah, blah, blah. So when he came over, everyone was like, man, like we're about to see a special season. And it's not like, I think he hit like 350 something. Like he hit like for a high average, but like the home runs were not there.
Listen, it's, I'm not, you would have to be a real dickhead to sit here and say, to kind of try to relitigate the Adrian Beltre, Adrian Gonzalez thing. Like obviously Adrian Beltre went on to be a Hall of Fame player, and that is in hindsight probably a mistake, a sequence there. But like to the point about being in the moment, in the 3 seasons prior to him coming to Boston, so the sample that the Red Sox front office and ownership were working with in viewing Adrian Gonzalez, he had been one of the greatest offensive threats in the game at the time. Like he had the previous 3 seasons were 36, 40, and 31 homers and a 138, 164, and 153 OPS plus. So he was, he'd finished 4th in the MVP in 2010, the season before he got to Boston. And then to your point, hit 338 with a 957 OPS and tied his career best in wins above replacement in his first season with Boston. So the rest of the contract, obviously, or not really even the rest of the contract, he was, obviously we know the sequence from there with the Dodgers, but Adrian Gonzalez, if you just go back and look at his page, you're probably like, yeah, solid player. There was a time where he felt like one of the best players in baseball,
correct,
maybe. And
right during that time.
Right. And then he finished 7th in the MVP vote in his first season with the Red Sox. And then, basically was never a real true MVP candidate ever again.
No.
That's how it works sometimes.
It's how baseball go.
No, it's a beautiful game.
It truly is. Truly is. All right. We will be back on Monday morning with more Baseball is Dead. Who fucking knows at this point if they're like when the Bregman emergency pod will be. We'll be on standby this weekend if he happens to sign. I think we're all kind of exhausted by it. So even if and when he does, I feel like we've already, like, let's say he signs with the Cubs or the Astros or the Red Sox. We've laid out how we feel about all those destinations anyway. Like the emergency pod when Bregman signs is going to be about how annoying his free agency was.
That'll do good numbies.
Yeah, people like that. People like that. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you guys on Monday.
We gone.